physical and spiritual, and in Cynthia's case, probably figuratively and literally, journey. You will have sleepless nights. You will walk around with your characters in mind, then vex you will find and seek inspiration in the most weird and also the most mundane places and people. And finally, when you're done, you start another different but necessary kind of journey, the publishing journey, which is where Samantha comes in. And you start thinking, will anybody like it enough to put it in place, put it on paper? And when finally somebody likes it to do that, comes the unending, revising, cutting of words. And Samantha was this chunk here saying, rethink it, revise it. What does it mean? It's not here. Go back to it. It goes on and on. And then finally, it is done. The baby is pushed out after a long labor process. And just like you say when the baby is born, Makorokoto, Cynthia, congratulations on the birth of this baby, the Toppling. We know it was never a simple journey. We want to ask you to but we just end it. My name is Goddess, and welcome to the launch of Toppling by Mamoyo. I'll be your MC this afternoon. So I forgot to say one thing. My name is Goddess, because I noted our writer here, Cynthia, the middle name is Mubizai. And our publisher here, Samantha, her middle name is Mubizai. So I'm not lying. I just decided to whip up my second name from my bag. It's actually my second name. It's fitting to that to this afternoon. So my name is Goddess Mubizai, and I'm going to help make this process a smooth, flowing one. Where was I? So it's a beautiful day, made even more beautiful by the music we just had, and by the ambience, by the people themselves, by the lovely decor. But right now, I'm going to leave you in the hands of a gentleman called Moses Magaza, who's going to, I hope I say the surname correctly, Magaza. Thank you. Who's going to spend some time with Cynthia, asking her some questions that we all are interested in knowing. Then after that, we will have a bit of time, a reading from our writer herself, Cynthia Marangwanda. And then later on, we will have some remarks from Dr. Mamoyo. But right now, please, let's clap hands for Moses Magaza and our writer, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't hear. Just hang on. Sound is muted, I think. I know when I we still can't hear.
Cynthia, if you can hear me, can you wave your hand?
Yes. Now we can.
Oh, fantastic. I can hear you now. Now, Cynthia, you are the granddaughter of J.M.
Yes, I am the granddaughter of John W. Marangwanda. Yes, he wrote the novel Kumazwanda Toga in 1959, one of the very first novelists to come out of Zimbabwe. Yeah, it's an interesting story, which I think in many ways kind of echoes sort of the same old view that I have, because it's essentially a story about Sarawoka, a village boy or rural boy who gets captured by the city, and he starts to go to the city, and when he goes there, he essentially becomes alienated from his culture, his history, his background, and he loses his way, and ultimately faces destruction. So in many ways it fits with where I come from, because I'm very much an advocate for cultural reclamation and cultural identity, cultural pride, being rooted in one's history, heritage, context. So I feel like my writing is a continuation of what my grandfather started, I think.
Indeed. Now, the Toppling is your second novella after Shards in 2015. Why would it appear that novellas have a high place in your life?
It's because I'm a poet by nature. So I started out as a poet. That is really my thing, poetry. So I've never really been strong in long form writing because of, I think I'm used to verse. I don't write epic poems either. So novellas for me are easier because I can still do prose, I can still create a story, but not maybe stretch myself too much, out of sort of the zone that I'm comfortable in. So I think I attribute that to my poetic background. My background is as a poet, which is why I probably find novellas a bit easier to tackle.
Well, I know you as a performing poet. Indeed, the last time that we met, I don't know if you remember this, was at the Sada Poetry Festival, which was put together by one Wanda Buchu, and I met you there with people like Memory Chirere and Jairus Kangira, Professor Jairus Kangira. You have a powerful poem about Neanda where you refer to her through her totem. I love that brief performance you did do. Do you mind performing parts of that poem or simply narrate how it functions?
Yeah, so I think this was in 2009. So it's so long ago. And it's actually one of my first, the first poems that I wrote as a spoken poet. So I do not remember it. I would lie. I don't have it like the actual words, but I do know the poem you're referring to. I think the title was Black Ganda, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, in that poem, I think I had been researching about Neanda, and I found out about the original incarnation of Neanda in Zimbabwe, Nyamita, who was Kore Kore. She was the daughter of Nyatimba Mtota. She was of the Moyo totem. Originally, they were of the Moyo totem. They changed to Nzomu Samanyanga. So I think I just incorporated all those elements. I talk of Kore Kore royalty. I talk about Mamoyo. Yeah, so I think that was just me putting in the stuff that I had recently researched about Neanda in the poem. And I'm glad you still remember it. Yeah.
Okay, now the book cafe
Yes.
appears to be central to your development as an artist.
Yes.
Walk us through your book cafe days.
Okay, so initially I studied law. I was meant to study law. I was at MSU, Midland State University, and I was struggling with the law thing. It was not for me. I just could not do it. It was stifling me. So at a certain point, when I came back to Harare from Peru, I was just like, I need to just find other artists, because I'm a creative person. and I heard about the thing. So I just showed up there one of the days, and there were people, there was a crowd, and they were very welcoming. And I think it was the first time in my life that I actually felt I belonged somewhere, because I sort of have this thing of going through life feeling like I really don't belong. So being around, artists, people who were outsiders and all of that, I felt like I found my place, and that's sort of where I really, my creative voice was nurtured. It was a platform I could experiment with my spoken word poetry, the translating the spoken words, and just whatever I wanted to do artistically. It was really a space that gave me that opportunity. So they were very formative years for me as a creative. I think it's from 2008 to, I think, 2013 or 2014. So yeah, very, very pivotal place in my life. I made a lot of friends, a lot of alliances there, so yeah.
Some reviewers describe your voice in Shards as maritarian, and that it is rare to find a woman writer take maritira like creative methods. How do you relate with maritira and some of the writers?
Yeah, maritira in particular for me was, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, should I say a mentor? I don't know, a friend even, because his writing, I could relate to the writing. I could relate to the emotionality of it. I could relate to the subversion, the rebellion, the living outside the margins of what is acceptable in society. Because like I mentioned earlier, I'm not someone who's very comfortable within what is considered normal, so to find a voice like Marichara who was not confined, he didn't allow himself to be confined. Of course, he paid a high price for that, but he lived freely, he lived as free as possible, and even in his writing, there's a freedom, there's a liberation. So for me, it was like eye-opening that, wow, you can actually write like this, without sort of conforming, the lack of conformity. That's what I loved the most. So it was, when I wrote Shards, I was very much at a point where I was studying literature, I was reading literature, like sunlight, everything. I was, so it was just a natural thing for me to sort of channel. I think I channeled my literature when I was writing Shards, because at that moment in time, he was my biggest influence. And I think it still remains, I think, in terms of literature in Zimbabwe, my biggest influence.
Shards is the novel of your youth.
Yeah.
How much of it is autobiographical?
A lot of it. A lot of it is autobiographical. Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah. The young woman in the story, she's me. Yeah. A lot of it is me. The struggles we went through.
Okay.
The spiritual journey, parts of that. The art, everything. Some of the characters were creations, the other characters were creations, but in terms of the main character, there was a lot of me that was in that story. Yeah.
Indeed. Spiritual journey, you say. In Shards, and now the Toppling,
Yeah.
you adopt strategies like spirit possession and teleporting. What constantly brings you back to this technique?
It's because I'm a spiritual person at heart, these are, it's not like those things that I read about actually happened to me, like some of them, but I am very much spiritually rooted, very much someone who's on my own spiritual journey for a number of years. And also in writing, I sort of just allude to what is familiar to me, to what I know, to what I experience, what I feel. I think all my writing is always going to be very spiritual because that's the space that I am coming from. Spiritual, not religious, though. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. So, yeah.
Yes, the young lady in the Toppling,
Yeah.
she's called Ruva's mother or simply Mamoyo.
Yeah.
In your estimation, what did you want to achieve with her?
I think I wanted to really show her, she's a vessel, right, for a bigger calling or a bigger cause. That's essentially what the role that she's playing, a conduit, a channel. Her voice is not as, I think, as pronounced as the protagonist in Shards because she sort of is playing more of a, I don't want to say a secondary role, but almost, because when you're a vessel, it's not really about you. It's more about the calling that you have, the cause that you have, the message, the work that you are meant to do. So her voice is not as forthright, as the protagonist in Shards. But I think she embodies what it is to be a vessel, to be called, sort of the conflicts that come with that, the sacrifices that come with that.
Well, Mamoyo is a seer. She sees people whom ordinary people do not see.
Yeah.
She talks to people who are long gone.
Yeah.
What kind of African traditions are you following from?
From Shuan. Or what some might call ATR, African traditional religion, African spirituality, Chivan. That is the basis of her particular calling. Of course, some of these other things can be found elsewhere in other religions, other faiths, other belief systems, but mine is rooted in Chivan. Our traditional or indigenous spirituality as Zimbabwean people, maybe Shona people, yeah.
Well, there's something interesting. Mamoyo meets Cecil Rhodes,
Yeah.
and instantly they are in conflict. It is as if Empire and New Africa clash.
Yeah.
What is your view of the clash between imperialist forces and African forces, and how can this be resolved?
I think the interesting thing is when we talk about colonialism, a lot of people think that it was like some past historical events. You know, it happened 1890, we colonized, 1980, we got our independence, it ended. And one of the things that I've always been passionate about is to let people know that coloniality is a continuous process. It did not end in 1980. And this is the case all over Africa, you know, and I think all over the global south. It continues, but maybe not in very overt ways or very obvious ways. I think now sometimes it's much more intangible, subliminal, subtle, psychological. The psychological legacy of colonialism is intense. So really, we have not transcended colonialism. You know, we are not post-colonial. I still feel like in many ways we're still colonial. And there is work that needs to be done to really confront and challenge the pathology of coloniality that we still carry and embody as a people.
Yeah, as Mamoyo and Rhodes fight in different spaces, Rhodes is almost invincible.
Yeah.
And does not agree with Mamoyo even once. Your comment on that?
I mean, that is the character of the colonial oppressor. You know, they justify everything they do. They see nothing wrong with anything that they do. They think that it is some divine mandate, you know, that they have to come in and, you know, uproot people's lives, destabilize, dehumanize, you know. So his being intractable like that, that is the colonial oppressor, you know, yeah, was it's rare. In fact, it's impossible to find a colonial figure who also has empathy, you know, for colonial subjects. It doesn't work that way. They feel entitled. So Rhodes is representative of the archetypal, you know, colonial oppressor figure. Yeah.
Okay, my battery is threatening to shut down. I'll say this. In their fight in Nyanga and in Cape Town and eventually at Matopos, you seem to suggest that Rhodes should go back home and that his grave should be removed. How lawful is this when you realize that his grave is under the protection of certain recognized organizations in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, I'm aware of that. The grave is protected by the Rhodes Estates Act, it's protected by the National Monuments and Museums Act. But these are laws, it's legislation. Legislation can always be amended, it can be repealed, it can be changed. There is no, I would never call for any sort of unlawful activity, you know, to say let's go out there and remove that grave by force. No, but I am of the belief that with enough advocacy, awareness, and activism, people will come to understand how having that grave there is an act of the highest desecration and abomination, and it has to go. And the hope is that in the coming years, the laws will also sort of see things from our side, those of us who advocate for this, and they will change and they will allow the grave to be removed in due process.
Indeed.
Yeah.
What has the writing of your statement novella done to you as a person?
It's told me that I can still write prose because I wrote Shards in 2014 and then I wrote this one, started writing in 2023, I think, finished last year. Yeah, I'd gone through a phase where I thought I could never write prose again. I was like, okay, I wrote Shards and that was a once-off thing, so it's not for me. So the fact that I was actually able to summon, you know, the muse came through and I was actually able to write this, it says to me that there is hope for other prose works in the future.
Yes. Zimbabwe has a long tradition of writers. Where do you think you fit in and why?
I think I am very much an ideological writer. Yeah, I don't know if that exists within Zimbabwe, but I'm very much ideological. My writing is rooted in ideology. I think there are people who write almost like there's art for art's sake, where it's like literature for literature's sake. Some with the love of language, some with the love of story. For me, I think my writing is very much rooted in my, whatever my ideology is, my cause, my message is. So maybe I guess I'm a political writer in a way, but not political as in partisan kind of politics, but much more ideological. So I don't know if there's really, I don't know if there are others that I can compare myself to in that way. But I think that's how I would see myself.
Finally, from where you're sitting, how do you think Zimbabwe should deal with the issue of piracy?
Piracy.
Yes.
That's a difficult one, you know, especially now that we're living in this digital age. I sort of feel like it's something that might not even be. I don't know how we can overcome that, honestly. Maybe stiffer penalties, maybe. Or if not that, then maybe finding ways to actually work with the parents if possible, or incorporate them or in a way that benefits both parties. Because yeah, it's a piece that I'm not sure is ever really going to be stamped out. Yeah.
Yeah. Before my laptop battery gives up completely on us,
Yeah.
your novel comes after the Rhodes Must Fall campaign and calls to check bonds of Rhodes from the Matopos. Do you agree with the views of these two movements?
I'm actually a fallist. I belong to the Rhodes Must Fall movement myself, you know. I was initially very inspired and then I became an actual participant. So even the writing of the book is very much from a fallist perspective, you know. I believe that there are calls to confront colonial legacy, there are calls for decolonization, for decolonial radical practices. I think Africa needs this. We need this more than ever, because until we confront the ills of the past, we'll never move forward. We'll keep moving around in circles. So I very much am in support of the Roads Must Fall movement, and the hope is that it will continue to proliferate and to make an impact in the years that follow.
Cynthia Marangwanda, it was an absolute delight eventually meeting you again after we met in Vindu. And let me join everybody who has congratulated you on the publication of your second novella. Thank you very much for the time. God bless you. Godspeed.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Moses Magaza. You were asking questions that I think most of us in the audience want to know. And unfortunately, I had to say your batch wanted to run out. I wanted to really, because you have this knack of asking like questions, I wanted you to continue asking her, those right questions that you were asking. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of this session. Yeah, according to my schedule here, you're supposed to do a small reading before we get into the question and answers schedule. So I do not know if we can do a vice versa of that. Question and answer, then reading, or should we keep go the reading? Looks like we should just go the reading as planned. So just your favorite, whatever section of the novel, who can be up for all of us. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'll just read the part where Mamoyo meets Roots. It's page, okay, let me start from page 36. Yeah, 36. All right. 30 minutes later, the combi stops at a bus rank in the busy central business district, and we all disembark. It is a balmy day. We are in late September, the season of Kumbuta, springtime, where nature is reborn in all its color and liveliness after the slumber and torpor of winter. This is the time of year when the striking purple flowers of Harare's famous jacaranda trees bloom. It is a mesmerizing sight to behold. Each year I find myself awed by the purple beauty of the jacarandas, but I'm also conflicted. I'm aware that jacaranda trees are an invasive species introduced by colonial settlers, and they stifle the growth of indigenous tree species. Jacaranda trees are beguiling colonial relics, highly aesthetically appealing yet insidious. My enjoyment of them is laced with guilt. After a short walk from the bus rank, I arrive at my workplace, the 5-star M Hotel situated in the heart of Harare city center. The hotel has been a landmark of the city since it was founded in the early 1900s by a Scottish settler who apparently built his wealth from looting massive amounts of cattle from the local African population. I've been working as a waitress here for 4 years now. Today, the hotel is hosting a luncheon for a visiting Commonwealth delegation that is here as part of Zimbabwe's ongoing efforts to rejoin the association after the former president withdrew the country in 2003 due to disagreements. I'll be one of the waiters serving the delegates and local government officials. On arrival, I politely greet my workmates and ready myself for the busy day ahead. Soon after 1 p.m., the luncheon begins, and I find myself immersed in the business of serving and catering to the domestic and international powers that be. Halfway through the luncheon, I notice a European man standing by himself at the back of the room. He looks vaguely familiar, although I have no clue where I might know him from. I conclude that he's most likely one of the Commonwealth delegates, but I wonder why he has removed himself from the rest of the group. I stop to study him. He appears and feels anachronistic. His clothes look dated, almost as if he stepped right out of Victorian England. And I find myself wondering why he is dressed in that manner. Despite his attire, he has a very proud bearing, almost haughty. As I am assessing him, I realize that his eyes are trained on me. I quickly look away and carry on with my duties. For the rest of the luncheon, I keep stealing glances at the strange man. He does not move from his position or attempt to join the rest of the dignitaries. I find my focus wandering to him so much he becomes almost a distraction. I end up asking a fellow waiter what he thinks of the odd man standing on his own at the back of the room. What man are you talking about? I don't see anyone here, is my colleague's response as he looks around in confusion. A shiver runs down my spine. If the strange man at the back is not visible to my workmates, then it can only mean one thing. He's an apparition that only I can see. When I glance again at the back of the room to study him more closely, I find no one there. I let out a heavy sigh and continue with the business at hand. As I go to sleep that night, thoughts of the ghostly man at the luncheon haunt me. I am now accustomed to seeing spirits, but something about this one feels significant. When I do eventually go to sleep, Tatebulo appears in my dream. He hands me a gun. You are meant to right the wrongs of history. Always keep in mind that your spirit is the most potent weapon. With it, you can slay any enemy or oppressor. He tells me as I accept the profiled ritual battle axe. The following morning, I wake up and go about my usual routine. Even though it is a weekend, Ruba wakes up with me and proceeds to go play outside with her dolls and toys in our small yard. Mother is also up early and she's sitting outside, soaking up the morning sun. As I am getting ready, Ruba suddenly comes bounding into the house, looking agitated. Mama, there's a white man standing at our gate, she says breathlessly. I feel a rush of blood to my head and my heart begins to pound. Even before going outside, I know who she is referring to. Okay, let's go and see. I say nervously, taking a hand in mine. We meet Mother at the door coming in. She looks worried. Ruba said she saw someone or something at the gate. What's going on? That's what we're going to check now. When we step outside, my suspicions are confirmed. Through the grill gate, one can easily see someone standing on the other side. And it is indeed the unusual man from the luncheon. He looks exactly the way he did yesterday when I saw him. The day is warm, but an icy draft seems to be radiating from his general direction. Ruba and I stand there staring at him, unsure what to do. I am startled when he unexpectedly raises his hand and says, "Greetings."
Thought for me, which I hope when you were reading the part when you first bumped into, when you first saw him, like standing by himself oddly, and you said he was a bit haughty, a bit, he had this attitude, and you just had mentioned that when you were doing the interview with Mr. Mangaza, that there's an entitlement and a feeling of like we deserve to be here, there's a divine mandate for us to be here, and you could feel it as you were describing this Sister John roles that you were seeing, and well, I do feeling the chills, and it's really a beautiful way in which you thought of, putting these two worlds into conflict, and I think it's just beautifully done. So we are going to, you guys, it's your turn to ask Cynthia, our writer, some questions, and I do not know if he's here, Mr. Mashinga Izekomo, if he's here, is one supposed to lead question and answer. Sorry, it looks like it's you.
I'm supposed to be
leading the question and answer session with Cynthia.
I've been made to understand that there's going to be a discussion.
So you can lead the discussion then.
Yeah, we can talk. Yeah, I I can say something.
Thank you very much. So let's clap for an end for you so that we feel warm as we walk to the next to Gary. Thank you very much.
This is never wrong. Never wrong, but what's your wrong? I did not test the number that created one. And because I have a connection in you, the test number is created. Never wrong, but the one that I just played. Okay. The introduction.
Okay.
Maybe this is not the first time you're around design. We met 2014, 2013, 2014. Time was talking about writers. I think that when 2018 or 14, you came to Global Heritage Trust. With someone, and you were talking about once, and somebody invited you to me.
I remember, yes, it was a very, very powerful discussion about that.
We had a very powerful discussion.
Wow.
It's like what I want to say is, don't know the Shiva.
I'm glad to be
Okay. And then, just know the Shiva, the guy who see the person, as we talk about the guy, actually published all these are coincidences. No, my coincidences. I can't say. Makauya mchitaura mwenye kuti pane mutemo unoprotecta kuvara roads, pane mutemo unoprotecta zvinhu zvakawanda zvaroads. And the question I asked you was, pakaenda vanhu kuhondo kunobvira nyika inei, papasina mutemo here weyambidza hondo wakaurika asi vanhu vakaenda kuhondo kunozvisunungura. Kana muda kusunungura mumirire mutemo wenyu wemusunungura. And nyaya, I especially like nyaya iyi yamutaurira nyaya yanehana nespirituality yamurikutaura, and also the fact here kuti you said you're not religious, you're spiritual. I think the Protector Liberation as a people, the movement away from religion back to the spirituality. The Protector now, I want to say I'm simply this toppling, I think, is the start. It's going to initiate, but it's initiating the discourse again, very necessary struggle here. Because 45 years after independence, teaching what I was, and 45 years after winning the right to self-determination, it seems like we don't even know what the self-determination is actually achieved. Self-determination also includes Orama, this thing as well as which you can take. And 45 years after independence, we seem not to understand. So the real sovereignty one inotangira self-respect. There's no self-respect in allowing roles which are given the very spirits that we invoked to mobilize the people in the liberation struggle must be vanhu vakaurayiwa nagods. We come back from war. Tosiyana neivavo tobva taenda kunochengetedza ruva rarods remunhu akavauraya. Ndo the ultimate mark yeself-respect. Saka, what I'm saying is, hapana chatinogona taachiva without self-respect. And self-respect ndoyashowewa Toppling. It's really about self-respect. zvandinoda kutaura, but zvese zviri kubva this thing yamatanga yanehanda. Ndiri kutsvakiridza ngeni nhoroondo yedu kuti tinzwisise patsva, kwete nemaonero emuvengi asi kuti nemaonero isusu vachivanhu. Saka yai zvinoona ekuti akomana neari ari pasesha penhoroondo yedu. Saka kuramba tichizogara pamunhu kuti ivi ndo yanoti aware of, but chinotore chimurenga chamataka, chinotore chimoto chamurenga. Yeah, a new chimurenga, and this chimurenga ndeye self-knowledge through self-research. My profession are pakuti we know ourselves through our own research. We know ourselves through research yevarungu. Research yevarungu yachona inotikiretera stereotype inofambisa zvavo ichidzima zvinhu. Saka pane mapatterns anobuda munhoroondo yedu anondifundisa tsumo yekuti handichina maneja achifambisi, chinokuita kuti mavara acho saoneke. Saka zvinoita sekuti ndozvekuita history yedu, ndozvekuita nhoroondo yedu, ndozvekuita politics yedu, ndozvekuita pane zvekufamba kumirira kuti mavara ese pamuri paumwe. Then those the new African scholarship must identify those patterns. The patterns you are decision making. The people who are not wrong, from a perspective of a personal perspective, about the way I inform decisions about it. Yes. Saka, I think those of us who are affiliation, we must know ourselves, our own research, through our own spirituality. And if we do that, every decision that we make from then on will be well informed. Saka, pane mapatterns munhoroondo pane mapatterns anokwanisa kuita lead
even tisina microphone tinogona kubvunzwai ngatiitei magetsi achiripo zvinotora nguva zvese zvamuri kutaura tiri kuzvidawo.
Ndiri kuti maproblems mazhinji muno muAfrica, muno muZimbabwe anouya because we don't know ourselves through our own research. Hatikuverenga, hatikutsvakiridza history yeZimbabwe, tirikutsvakiridza history yeIsrael. Saka musi weSunday mangwana vanhu vanenge vari kuchechi vachiita history yeIsrael. Musi
she gets especially the soul singing the next minute or so. And nothing is able, and I'm best to them. I don't stay for beauty in the time. She tended to go that going down to the stage. That part was the open door, and I was doing it straight up with the neck, and the turn to your left with the lady. So I hope I've tried it.
Discussion ya chupita sote ra guru Cynthia Marangwanda ini tutakuja kupata neanda saka tutakutangira neanda papesti chimweni asi papesti chimweni kapachona Dr. Secretary Toppling sauti neanda ndiani parudzi rwamashona tinonzi tateguru vedu anotanga kuzivikanwa nemambiri mambiri anobva azvara tovera tovera anobva azvara murenga murenga anobva azvara vana vakawanda asi vanga vari outstanding pavana vamurenga nehanda muchamunyuka namuchawedu muchawadu vese ava hapana akapinda muzimbabwe asi uyu akabweti murenga akaita umambo hwake kutanzania then vana vake anachamiungana nzvimbo dzavapotina nemigration asi vanhu vakazvipinda muzimbabwe vakapinda nemudzimu wasekuru vange vari vazukuru vamurenga saka vakapinda nemudzimu wasekuru mudzimu wasekuru wachona ndevanga ari murenga ndokusaka zvinhu zvese muzimbabwe zvichitangira panani zvichitangira pana murenga kada kuva hondo tinoiti chimurenga kada kutsvaga mvura tinotsvaga kuna murenga kada zvese zvatiri saka toti vanhu vakapinda muno muzimbabwe vakapinda nemudzimu wasekuru sekuru vachona ndoro vanga vari murenga ndinoti maybe wrong maybe contested asi I think every nation must have a narrative inovapatanidza majudha ane yavo yana abraham tineiyoyi ndinototibatanidza already nekuti zvinhu zvedu zvese zvinotangira pana murenga which means kuti tese tiri kuita recognize kuti ndegodfather wenyika ineyi saka inarrative inoda kusimbiswa chaizvo chaizvo asi inotosimbiswa netsvakiridzo dzedu saka fast forward tosvika occupation yezimbabwe paoccupation yezimbabwe vanhu vazhinji vanofunga kuti zimbabwe pioneer forum vakauya kuzoibweta zimbabwe vakanga vari magara vano vari vanhu vakuru asi Frank Johnson ndiye akaunganidza ngeni mamesinari waya akanzi tsvaga vanhu vari between 22 and 25 saka vanhu vakauya kuzotora zimbabwe vakapamba zimbabwe vakanga vari between vakauri below 25 And then my money also another impression yekufundidzira kuti vanhu vakarwa vapesi chimurenga vakanga vari ana sekuru zvakare. Vanhu vakaprotesta vanhu manyika emabritish youths akauyazotora Zimbabwe vanga vari vana vadiki zvakare. Saka it is estimated kuti medium yaNehanda pakafa kuna 1898 it's estimated kuti akabaine 86 years. Saka tikadzokera pa 1890 pawaiva varungu it means kuti anaine 28 years. Saka it means kuti vanhu vakaprotesta varungu ava vanga vari mayuthi zvakare. Saka we have ana Chinyenguru vakanga vari vanga very young chicks. We have ana Nevanji vana Makoni mwana wake aikomanda during this papeti chimurenga ainzi Miripi akanga ari muyuthi zvakare. Mwana wamangwendi muchemo wokuuraya Bernard Mzekure akanga ari muyuthi zvakare. Mwana waNyando Panachi akanga ari muyuthi zvakare. Vava commanders vachibva kumabritish youths. Izvi ndikaya kuzvitaurira kune mayouths edu kuratidza kuti zvinoshamisa. Vaziva kuti vanhu vakapamba Zimbabwe vanga vari mayouths, vanhu vakakontesta Zimbabwe okutanga chaivo chaivo vanga vari mayouth futi. Now toenda pana Nehanda svikirwa chaminuka pasi pamire akanga aurayiwa between 1882 and 1883. Saka it means kuti paka paine one pamaspirits aibva pana murenga directly paka paine one pataine chimurenga chimurenga anova ndiye Nehanda ndiye akanga ine medium yachaminuka yanga isati yakura. Ipapo ndo panozopinda Kaguvi. Kaguvi was a regional spirit, not a national in the game. Saka pakazonzi Nehanda akwanise kushanda nevanhu vechirume. Ngokuya Nehanda akwanise kushanda nevanhu vechirume vakatsvagwa ndopakapinda Kaguvi ndokuupgrade vakaenda into a national spirit. Now, chimurenga chekutanga kumashonaland chimurenga chekutanga chakadivhaidwa into matabeleland nemashonaland. Pakanzi kwekutanga kumatabeleland and then chozouya kumashonaland zvosiyana ne3 months. Saka paine kuti kumatabeleland chimurenga chakatanga muna March, mwezi wa20 March. Asi kutanga kwechimurenga kumatabeleland patsvakiridzo iri kubuda iko zvino ndinokuti inoburitsa kuti muna January kana kuti February 1896 Rhodes akafika mumatoposi ndobva aona malindidzini ndobva aparira nzvimbo iyoyo akati ada kudiikwa ipapo. Saka manheru acho famu yaRhodes yakave mujinga rematoposi. Manheru acho vachidziya moto vachitaura nyaya ndobva ataura mafriends ake vaikunda naAlbert Gray kuti pane nzvimbo yandaona mumatoposi. Nzvimbo iyi yakanaka zvokuti ndirize inokuratidza imangwana. So next day they rode into the matoposi ndobva varatidza this place. If you are in this canal, it's so peaceful and it's like you can see, you have a view of the whole world. In fact, I call it another view of the world. In fact, I want to be buried here. I took my instructions to what I'm going to do. So, a brass plate, a simple brass plate, here lie the ruins, the remains of Cecil John Rhodes. Now, there's something very interesting about that. Apana kuti ana kuti munonyora kuti munesa cross, ana kuti munesa cross, ana kuti munonyora kuti rest in peace. anangoti may his soul go to heaven. Murikuona haana kurava akati here lying the remains of Sisu John Rods. Isusu makwai edu ezvinenge zvakazara nechii. Rest in peace. Akazara neBible verses. But these are the people vakauya neBible muno. Papakuva ava havana kubvisa any verse then. Now, tobva tabva ipapo. Vana vape my instructions kuti ndikaenda apa muzodai. What happens? Mukwati anobva ashedzwa. Sooner after that, mukwati anoshedzwa kumatopozi kuti wandoitanyi. Why akashedzwa kumatopozi? It means kuti pakavhundukwa nemidzimu kuti uya kuda kuvigwa in the most sacred space of the land. Ndopakuda kuvigwa. Saka wondo ikadziitange. Now it's very interesting, man, when you look at the whole thing. Kuti wondo ngaitange nekukwati ndiye akacoordinata indebele mishona kuti chimwerenga chive chirwe kumatabhele zvose nemashoni. And mukwati is from ntava zikamama. Mukwati akanga ari svikiro ratorwa. Torwa ndiye akabva kuGreat Zimbabwe. Vamutana namutota. Mutota achiuya kunoku uyo achienda achinotanga the Roche Empire. Uyo achinotanga Mutara. Now, kuti ntava zikamambo ndopakafira the last Rose Zimbabwe chikisamunhu achiuraiwa ne-unit yazvagendava yaikomandwa ne-woman ainzi Nyamezana. Now, the interesting part is pakaperera Rose Zimbabwe ndopakutangira chimurenga. Ende chirikutangwa nemweya wamambo uri muna Mukwati. Our history is beautiful. Now, what happens manje? Tati ndinyatsanga pantava zikamambo. Kumatabheleland inolasta exactly 5 months. Inotanga musi wa 20 March yobva yapera musi wa 20 August. Asi kupera kwayo ndokwe interesting. Avanosarenda. But let's look at the process. Chinoitika ndechekuti during the fighting, the Lele forces were driven into the Matopos. Saka Matopos mainetsa kuti kurwa. So it looked like the war would be drawn out. Saka what then happened in the team? Vakati, let us initiate a peace process. Because vataka kutsvaga representatives of the Ndeveles, of the old Ndevele kingdom. Saka mukutsvaga imo vakasvika pane a certain village. Ndobva vachiona an old woman. Mozakanga pane that age inoti kodisha tizei zvangu. So the young people vatesera mumatopos. Vanhu vese vakasiiva vatesera mumatopos. Left an age yevanhu vasingatizi. So they found this old woman, and the old woman turned out to be a Messiah, the one who had killed the last Roshenbaum. Saka pakazouya nomuzivikazi, the part that I didn't tell you, akataka kupfuura nemuZimbabwe ndiSoshanghana, vachibva kumadisturbances achakazulu. Soshanghana pasi kuZimbabwe obva aenda kuGaza, and then zvangendava ndiye ane the unit yecommand. Aine 1 unit yecommand wanewoman yenyambezana. Ndobva vaenda kuMalawi neTanzania. And then we had muzivikazi, the last group, pane vanhu vaitiza shaka. Saka muzivikazi akasoroora Nyamezana. So which means that this woman akanga ari a queen, and ndiye akakonzera kuparara kwedhiroshi kingdom. So ndiye akazove the go-between, akakwanisa akatuma kunotaura nemandelele commanders kuti come and let's talk peace. Muri kuona the symbolism in that. So she comes, so ndo anounganidza mamangira ndiye akuteererwa. So Rhodes couldn't believe it. Musi wa 21 the year the first Indaba in the Matopos. Many people believe Indaba, there was one Indaba in the Matopos, but there were actually 6 Indabas that made up, that translated to the peace yakazoitika. So the first one was on 21 August. So Rhodes couldn't believe it. He says, "Sir, is it peace?" And they said, "Yes, it's peace." You can see, give me a sign over Wakanda Shobobas. So it's peace. Just Taurage Chemosly. The Wataura Chemosla, and they put the blame on the shoulder to know what and they actually to show can I organize when I'm quite it was the shoulder. So the drawer considered this. So what then happened in this routine? Vanotoorerana to the end of the day, and then what chose to foot. So Paseke Indaba, Pagabani new characters. The commanders Vagavari Kupapet Indaba, no Vagavari Kumano family, the Fione, the Zanzi, the Vakapumirana and Rhodes. So second Indaba, planning new characters. And amongst them, there's a Shona chief. A Shona commander, he says, "I'm wearing a foot." So Rhodes says, "I don't talk to people, I will not talk to you about foot." And no one else will carry about British. They'll tell you that the Western world, they'll tell you, when there's one question, when I was in Noise, it was supposed to pass, nobody Venezuela. So those are always I will not talk to you about construction. Much of that in about food. Because in a kind of pass, I become a dog which you can kick around. There's the chitao. There's the kind of say is appear. Check up cookie. You got now words, you talk paper kuga. There's the whale. Which part kuga, the man whale. So even the Shona element yakabeapa from the knowledge pero adamu particular nationality. So, and if we check your history, you will find you would see the little commanders base, no one was the end. The base positions in the British administration. Sakapanga pani induna for Bulawayo, induna for the different parts in Uganda, for Bakapiwa questions in the so Bakaure Mekoko and Namakundi Bakavari Mashon, they were end. Now, so Wogo nationality continues. And the white people, the settlers, the state government, Mashona, they didn't expect the resistance from the Shona. They expected the greatest resistance from the Indele because Wagabari were very militarized. So they started asking questions. Why are these people keeping fighting? And the answer I was where they would see Dimurenga, Dimari. Now, look at it here. Murenga Kaka in Masaka one. The Staraga Ainsi, Murenga, reminds of Surah and Zobu, reminds of Mojena, reminds of Mari. So, during this time, Akagari administrator when teacher during this time, Albert Gray, Earl Grey. And most of the video Earl Grey, it has been named after, it was later named after him. Now, Albert Gray visits Shawasha. With Shawasha over two small boys, African boys, Vagabond described the British anthem, God save the Queen. But to him, they say, he says, now this is the answer. Let us give this answer. I respect the Shona. I have more respect for the Shona now, because they are doing exactly what we would do if another nation were to come to Britain and do what we are doing to them. But I would behave exactly like what the Shona are doing. But let us give them education, Christian education, to send them away from this spirit they are praying. So I'm afraid that nobody who's on equate yes, nobody who's on equate when Abraham, the God of Abraham, nobody who's on Mary, but was mentioned the age. It was actually to trick the show. So, this was a political decision, in essence. Now, we continue. Kumashona late money. Kutaka kukaita wono kumashona yakataka kuswa 15 June. And that was 3 months after it had been planned to start 3 months after maternity leave. Now, kumashona late wono yakatanga nedare. Kumashona late yakatanga nedare. Muswa 15 June, Pollard, the native commissioner where Mamoyo, he was sentenced to death mudariraniana. Akatongwa nemutemo weZimbabwe, mutemo wamurenga. Abantu vaine mhosva yekuraya vana vamurenga ndovatongerwa rufu ndovaurayiwa. Saka hondo mashona ndakatanga nedare. But pakaitika 3 things musi wa 15. Pakaurayiwa maminers kubeaches, pakaurayiwa matraders pamashaya moyo. Zvakaitika simultaneously. Now, the critical thing man ndeyekuti hondo iyo ye-first children yakapera nedare zvakare. First ranga riri dare ranyana, ndo yapera nedare muHarare paSozwe. The Queen of England versus Nyana of Zimbabwe. So hondo yakatanga nekutongerwa rufu kwedorobha, ndo yapera nekutongerwa rufu kwemwana wamurenga. Yeah. Many people have missed that. But it's very critical. What he's saying about coincidences essay which Peter points out that history of Zimbabwe must be retained, sedare, material. Don't it be seeking. Now, the media and Nakabuli and the others were on 27 April 1898. Wakabon switch start. Wednesday, 27 April 1898. 68 years later, the second Chimurenga, Ilutanga was Thursday, 28 April. Calendar yemuna ya 1898 yakafanana nekalenda ya 1966. Yakafanana. Now, if you can believe, so the strange thing, man, she needs to attain self-knowledge. But we disrespect ourselves because attain self-knowledge. We believe that Panamuna after 3 days and 3 nights are not. And we don't believe this. But it's direct connection. From a dates, from a calendar, what other signs that you want?
Could you believe in yourselves? What are the signs? Okay. We continue. Honey, tati kushawasha look at decision. We're going to have that Christian education now. Now the first inmates in Congo. You are going to find this very interesting. The first inmates in Congo, very good. Kwanga kwatona ziripi mwana wa Kabuli had been converted. Ndiye akazoedzwa kuzokonvinsa baba vake kuti vaaccepte baptism. Now chikuru chiripo kama something mukati musina so tikasanisecha this hatigomba takawana maonero enguva yayo ndechekuti neanda anzi tokubhabhatidza and baptism kumakristu nenge chidzi I accept Jesus as my personal savior. And it, now if you accept a personal savior, what will you do? You think with a savior is going to save you. So now nanti once we are a savior, over this and she's linked. Man, congratulations, man, man, I should told you, I said when I was scaffold, I should told him, I should told you. But I said, never. Do you accept Jesus? It's your business. To go back to it. When I go over, with Papa, please accept. Over, accept. It is the end. So, I'm not a snake, I'm not a one. Tikavuma tinorewa tikaramba tinorewa muzwa ndonesinya saka tikasaita tsvagidzo yehistory kadaiwo tikasaistudy this way the way kastudyirwa kasitudyirwa katinoita bhaibheri kastudyirwa katinoita literature Shakespeare kastudyirwa this is how we should study our history. Now to go through there avaureva the lesson patiri is when we look at that ndekuti hapana chazvinogona nevanhu hapana kusiri kufa saka totozvirwira tikafa totonofanira kutamba tichingorwa chete kusvika tamuinani and we should never give in. We give in, we're killed. We don't give in, we're killed. Now this I likened this tradition of to what happened to Malcolm X, now Martin Luther King. Malcolm X, akafa in 1965. We are around 1925. Malcolm X, we are around 1924. We are jail, we are good. Now, Malcolm X was militant, wasn't eye for an eye, he was killed. Look at all we are going to dream, we know that it was killed. We don't know again. It's like Zubitka Africa, Zubitka diaspora, Apana, materialized. So, we continue. To number two, nay, later on any. Good participant. Now, Tati Ama Kabulina Nilma Baurema, and then education Yakutana, Christian education. Now, Tati Ziripi, Manuaka Puli, Yaka, she was already there. And then some of my inmates as well, look where Anabona, Anamela. Namela Nababos Kerino. It's all about Shawash. Saka, Father Rikas, Akorea and Neanda. Akababes, Akabuli, Akab, officiate about Papua and Neanda. Father Rikas, Yagan Uruba Shawash. Now, Father Rikas, Akapamuna, 1928. So it means we were now in the same space. A madam garden, the most came Ziri, Bagara, Padarikas, Bagara, Bagara in the same space. it's beautiful. And there is tradition and it. But we need to understand our history this way, but even meaningful to us. It's informing whatever decisions we make. Now, Christian education bunch. And then you see what when you look at the early nationalists, when Christian names, where Joshua Nkomo, mentioned the London Missionary Society. London Missionary Society, we have a commission and Robert Moffat, we were weird, so Joshua Nkomo, London Missionary Society. So Joshua Nkomo is Christian education from the family. No, Joshua, we have the Joshua Nkomo, but also means Thomas Nkomo. And the lady, our Easter baptized by and this is studying Joshua Nkomo, most likely no come two needs, but evil contract in this education. Because it's most likely just like we come we look at this mass. But now, so we have Robert Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, announced the coming year Jesus. And then Baba James Kerema writes Joseph. The other guy when I went to we take this from Egypt. And then we have Tati Joshua Nkomo, Gabriel Ngade, James Chikerema, Abel Zorewa, Yuni, whenever they were certain characters. Baka tanga this nationalism. Joshua Nkomo, the younger and oldest, born in 1918, and then there was Gabani Stole was born in 1920, and then there was Chitepo. Chitepo was born in 1923, and then there was we are in the English names, not Christian names. And see Rake Reshona. Tumaindini Chitepo. I love that name. The next, G Mugabe, and then the next thing had was Zorewa. Go Makarita Zaka.
Okay, we're going to continue this history another time. But I'm sorry for the, what I wanted to do was to link history and ngaphandle kurumidzai watanga chimoto ndosakaita kundi kutaura patinoenda ikoko makutozoona the connection here but it needed this background. Saka tunosangana zvakare muchikamu chinotevera. Ndinotenda nemwoyo wangu wese.
Thank you very much. Let's all clap our hands again for Mr. Marangwanda. I feel terrible. I'm the wicked witch who had to stop this because we still have even done our question and answer. We have our musicians here to entertain us one more time. But it was, I feel like I should have come with a notebook. Many people on a piece of paper where I was scribbling things. I had learned so much, such a wealth of history and information, and you are right. A lot of us are walking around guilty. And how do we move forward when we do not have such information? I feel like I have gotten just a glimpse of the wealth of information that we have. Thank you so very much. Yeah, so we need to move on to our question and answer just taking 5 questions because of time, and then we get our musicians to come and entertain us one more time. So we have questions for our writer mostly, but if you have a question for Mr. Mashinga, I think they're also welcome. Yes, say.
Thank you. So, thank you very much for giving us that breakdown of the history. So, my first question would be, what resources would you recommend for someone who's interested in looking into that history? And my second question would be to Ms. Cynthia. What's been your personal journey with at some point you studied law, and then you realized that was cycling, and you moved away from that. So what's your journey been like from coming from that world of doing what's expected, going through university, all that, to you charting your own path, being a poet, being a writer? What have you learned? What insights have you had from that journey? And then the last question is also to you. What does the cover art for the book speak to you? What does it mean for you?
Alright, 3 questions, 1 for you, Say, and 2 for you, Cynthia. So I'll start with the person that asked you first. Please go ahead.
Okay, you say what resources do I comment? I say first read the ground. The ground has more information. What is the main tangira ipapa mufamily menyu uchidzokera kumashure tangira ipapa, and then wozoverenga zvavanonyorawo and you compare, but you must write in your own interests, not in their interests. Ukunyorera baba vako, ukunyorera mai vako, ukunyorera tete vako, ukunyorera muzukuru wako, ndovanofanira kubereka. It must be a story that benefits them. Look at the story of the Syrophoenician woman. The Syrophoenician woman goes to Jesus. But Jesus anoti, is it right? Kuti munditore chingwa chevana ndepefumura. The Syrophoenician woman says, inga ingadinozwa vanhu zvinenge zvazonzi apatext. Ubvanzi your faith is great. Saka mwana wako apona. She succumbed to the position of a dog. And we preach that every day in our churches, for Sunday school, for midweek service, for funeral, family. Let us write our history in a manner in which we are not dogs that are feeding from the corporate table, but we are the owners of the thing. And they also say, and a rich man, a better party, Luba, Poka, Vanwaka, one party, fellow rich people, Magati Ninda Rora Mukati Mucha Saga, I can't come. Magati Natinga moment, I can't come. Maga Posh when the sack and the bus with the Chipindai, Mutawi, Muchagi. Mudezema beggars and everyone we've not been invited. But we do our position here. We must ask ourselves what we need to kind of interest the matter. We must ask ourselves what they take up never come from Mama is already but never come from Mama never come was the beggars. So we can't come into any religion as beggars. We can't come into any history as second class. Let us write out a history. You could deal with the first class. Go on.
Thank you so much, Hans. We cannot come into our own history as second class citizens. Once go back and write. Start from your own family, your genealogy. I want that thing.
I'd just like to start by really thanking hey man, I was actually getting emotional listening to him, and I think I have a very bad memory. So initially it said Silverman, but then I remembered that we also had a very powerful discussion when I met him. And I remember he said something because when I was talking about the whole what's whole thing, and I was like, we don't have support, we were not getting support, we were not getting stakeholders. He said, when you're talking of stakeholders, the main stakeholders are your ancestors. He said that. And when he said that, it clicked. And he said, if they are there, somehow, some way, a way will be made. So no, thank you so much for the powerful work. Then to answer, Kudam, you asked about me giving up law. We live in a world that does not really support living authentically. It's not a world that supports that, and I think that has a lot to do with the whole, capitalist, neoliberal world. Grinding. You have to get a 9 to 5. You have to all these things that were introduced to us really from the colonial projects, as we're talking about. Me doing that, some thought I was crazy. Some still think I'm crazy, and I've paid a heavy price for that. I really have. My life is not easy. I don't want to get into it, but I paid a heavy price for not conforming in so many ways. Being ostracized, being shunned, struggling, being left because people are like, why? She could just have lived a normal life and done normal things. But at the end of the day, I know that when my deathbed comes, my conscience will be, free. That I lived in a way that was true to myself. So the journey, like I said, has not been easy, but I followed my dreams. I stopped going to law school, MSU, and then I started pursuing my artistic dreams for a number of years as a poet. Then I ended up getting married. My brother-in-law is somewhere there, focusing on family. I did eventually go back to university, and I did get my honors degree in women's and gender studies later on, because that is a subject that I'm passionate about. My former lecturer, she's here. But I followed my own heart in everything, and there's a price to pay for that, but I also think there's a reward spiritually and mentally. There's a reward for staying true to myself. So and then the cover art. So the cover art, it was inspired by The House of Hunger, right? So there's a quote in The House of Hunger where he talks about. I'm going to paraphrase. He talks about, he looks up into the sky and he sees something floating, floating down from a pale blue sky, and then he realizes it's a black man and a white man locked in the embraces of struggle. So from that quote, because like I said earlier, I'm very much influenced by Maritila. I've been rereading The House of Hunger, and I was rereading, I realized, okay, people talk about Maritila as if he was some sort of, conflicted African or some coconut, some coon, the words. And I mean, he might have had some elements, but also I noticed a very strong anti-colonial thread in House of Hunger. So I was like, this guy, he may not really be as westernized or, as assimilated as people think that he was. So from that quote, that's when the idea came from. And then I reached out to Samantha, my great publisher and artist, and I just told her, okay, I'm not a visual artist. There's this quote which I think resonates with the story that I'm trying to write. What do you think? Then she was the one who visualized it. So she was then the one who sort of brought out the vision in a very, very beautiful way. And when I just saw it, I was like, this is, perfect. So it was more of a collaborative effort, sort of me finding that quote and then her bringing the quote to life. Then we have the cover. So it's a black woman and a white man locked in the embraces of struggle, essentially.
Lovely collaboration brought such a sweet street produce. That's a lovely cover. Anyone else with a question? Oh, thank you. Choose.
Timothy. Ilikuwa kwa wangu wa Canada na Mamoyo. asi tapinda muna the toppling unoona kuti muna Mamoyo zvekare munoona chinzi Mamoyo. Handizive kuti pangava here zvekare nerupandi rwakakura pamutambi mukuru wemuna the toppling anonzi Mamoyo rwemunyori. Ndo mubvunzo wokutanga zvekare kuti kuenderera mberi here kubva kuda Shards tichienda kuna the toppling. Mubvunzo wechipiri. Wechitatu unoti tinoona kuti mai Mamoyo anova iye muoni, asi ari muoni unomuva mwana wake zvakare muoni, nokuti vese vanoona munhu akamira pagedhi anozovati greetings. Ndingada kunzwisisa kuti zvinoreva here kuti chipo chiri pana amai chinenge chaakuenda chindotambidzwa kumwana kuti chikuenderera mberi. Ndonobvunzo yangu iri mitatu.
Please go ahead.
Chipo ichi chikutakira pana ambuya. Chikutakira pana ambuya. Chirosvika mwana choita
Let me get it again. Actually, in a way, this was subconscious, but in a way, I think it was kind of inspired by my own family history. Because abuya wangu mai vamai vaive murapi, and somewhat they took on the anger now, you know, whatever the terminology is in her time. So she had a very powerful spiritual gift. Then amai baba she was situation area. She was, you know, well known for that. And then my own mother had her own spiritual gifts. Though yes, she discovered them later, and unfortunately she passed away before she could really explore some of these gifts. But she, I told her, you know, and she had her own spiritual gifts as well, which she never really got to explore, unfortunately. And then in any words, somehow I found myself in Chigare direction. So I think in terms of that, that was just maybe something that was just taken from my own life. My grandmother, my mother, myself, we have all sort of in our, across 3 generations, is it 3 generations? I think, we have all been drawn, you know. So yeah, so I think for me writing Ruwa in that way, making her also have a gift like a mother, it was a natural thing because it's something that I've actually personally experienced within my life. Then yes, Shards, like I said, she was very much inspired by me. Mamoyo, I think it's not so much. I think yes, but I try to sort of separate her life from mine. Her life is very different from my life. If you read the book and you see her story, it's different. How she lives, it's different. But I think it's also Bosanga, and I think Panyaya, Yechivan, Iyo food. Here being sort of Bongwe, and all of that, that's where we Pachino Sangana, but she's not very, very, very similar to me in her daily life. And like Shards. I don't think, did I answer? If there is something I left, I think you said 3?
Mato,
it answered in the course.
Yeah, you answered in
Thank you for the question, Mr. Julie and Cynthia, for the response.
I want to disturb the center.
Oh my God.
It's become the devil's advocate.
Okay, yes.
Cynthia, throughout the story, Mamoyo is with Sister John Rhodes.
Yeah.
Sister John Rhodes is very consistent. You will do nothing to me because you are self-conflicted. Point number 2, when you look at the story, what happens between Sister John Rhodes and Mamoyo and the blasting of the grave remains only imaginary. And Mamoyo comes back to real life. It's as if you, the author, was saying the war zone of blasting this grave can only happen in the make-believe, and we shall wake up to the realization that it can't. And the people around, she says to the people around her, I will tell you the full story. I want you to comment on that. Okay. Rhodes says you are self-conflicted, and therefore, just like what Komo is saying, you can't get to me.
Yeah.
You go on with the struggle, but you make sure only it operates at the level of self-belief. Then to go. In this day and age, would it be viable to deal with the grave at Matopos? You remember Robert Mugabe saying, no, we leave him there and make sure he pays the money through the people who come to see his grave. And I want you to visit our culture. What do we do in our culture with the graves of our enemies or the graves of those people whom we've been fighting? In Shona tradition, do we blast the graves of our enemies? What's the shortcut to dealing with them in Shona tradition? Thank you. A question for her and for him.
All right, do you want? Okay.
The way I tell you, cinema traditions and the internet culture. Culture, iphethe iraramo inoimposwa ne-experience yenyu. Ma-traditions zvinhu zvamunoramba muchingotsokorora. Now, ma-traditions anotangira muculture, zvinhu zvaimposwa nehistory yenyu. Like, I heard recently, zvinzi rusambo rwakabva pane lamusambo. Majasi takati style with majasi. Saka zvinhu zvaimbozwa neni. Now, isusu experience yedu isusu ndeyekuti lived experience yedu yekuti chitepo mangena na Tongogara na Masuku vakafira outside the country. By independence, we made a decision yekuti vanofana kudzoka. So makuva avo ikoko akamacherwa pakati. Saka izvozvo itemplate chaiyo chaiyo yekuti kubva munhu watisingade isusu iye zvinoka tivasangoichera tikaita tikabudisa zvirimo tikatovaridivana
Tsika dzedu here dzatakaita ipapo.
Tsika ndosaka ndati tsika vaitsika muna matradition andi saka ndakuti tine tradition majasi tradition yezvinhu takati nawe rusambo
Rusambo is not Rusambo, I don't agree.
But
isu kwatakabvisa muputukezi kwatinobva isu kwamutapainisa bezivhani hatina kuchera makuva avo tichaendesa kuportugal.
ndakubvunza ini maputukezi akabva from somewhere. Your fight with them yakatangira somewhere. Saka every experience atinayo imenenge inyowani chaiyo chaiyo. Ndopakuzotangira tsika dzacho ipapo. Mukuzona. Every experience yamaita inyowani. Saka ava inyowani. Rufana kucherwa.
Thank you. That is his view.
Wait, okay, please go ahead. Do you remember the question? He was referring to what God says in the toppling, where he said you are self-completed. That's why I want you to be above you, something like that. So I need maybe you to further explain what you meant.
No, I'm saying she should explain that. And also I wanted to deal with what is seemingly a hesitation on your part to deal with the grave physically. It's only dealt with at the level of self-belief when she's in a trance. When she comes to real life, the grave is not exactly being dealt with, and she's not ready now to talk about the story. Was that a hesitation? What processes are going round and round there?
Okay, actually, the grave was dealt with for real. Because if you read at the end, her mother actually says that the remaining Zimbabwe vet that was in Cape Town is returned, and the Rhodes grave was blown up, and the authorities are investigating. So this may have happened within some sort of parallel spiritual worlds. It was spiritual warfare, really. It was spiritual warfare, but the spiritual warfare had real world consequences. And I think that is resonating because I was not there, but I have heard stories about how through Mondo, Shikiro, supernatural things would happen during Mondo. I think if we can confirm this, which actually helped to further the struggle. So it happened. It may have been fought spiritually, but the results were physical. Because at this point, I believe it's now a spiritual war more than anything. And I think if we can win it more on a spiritual and psychological level, I think the biggest part will be done, then the rest can follow. And then the part about being self-conflicted, I think you're just referring to the fact of him saying that we don't have a sense of self, and it's something along those lines.
Yes, look, we have our language, our education.
Yes.
We even have the Union Jack around Africa
Yes.
Unit Square.
Yes, that I did that specifically to open our people's eyes to just how we are still embedded in colonialism, because it's not over. That's what I was trying to say in the beginning. This idea that they did what they did and then they went. It's not over. It is everywhere. It is within us. You know, it is sitting here. I grew up in the suburbs. For a long time I struggled to speak Shona. It's not something I'm proud of, but these are some of the things that we're dealing with. The sort of the remnants, the residues of colonialism. And until we can accept that, we are still in many ways colonized, we're never going to move forward. So I was just doing that to sort of bring forward that awareness of how still colonized, still subjugated mentally we are.
I want to I want to help Panel, the first person, she's dealing with this thing in the mind church. What I want to say, every action in history was imagined. To take an imagination. Because I feel imagination is watching motor watching motor.
Oh my gosh, yes. That should be the last question, I think, because what we did with the 2-3 questions each.
Good evening. My name is Turgani. I run a creative consultancy called the Radioactive Blog, and we're currently working on a toolkit for authors kind of help them effectively prepare to get published. And that context is because this is your second book. So I just want to know what were some of the key challenges that you faced, and are there any differences or similarities to your first book that you published in 2013?
In terms of publishing?
Yeah, just key challenges.
Okay, so with Shards, so I wrote Shards in a burst of inspiration, and I was convinced that it would be snapped up by the first publisher I sent it to be a bestseller. That did not happen. I struggled to find a publisher for a long time. I sent it to all the known publishers, the reputable publishers, and I got rejected. They told me the story is too experimental, it's too radical, whatever. Up to a point where I was now just despairing, and I thought the book would never see the light of day. And then I had to sort of then take an orthodox approach because there was a family friend who had a printing press, his own sort of, thing, and I spoke to him, and he was okay, give me the story, I'll look at it, he looked at the story, like, this is interesting stuff, let me take a chance on it. So it was really more of like material, it was, I did not get published, the first edition, in the typical way. So he took the chance, he published the book, and I'm thankful to him because he really pushed the book, and the book came out, won the number, and then sort of then all this buzz around it. When I was now wanting to look for another publisher, I posted on social media, I was like, I'm looking for a publisher, because I knew how difficult it is. So I didn't want to sort of go through the process again of sending, I just posted. And then this friend, she reached out to me in my inbox, and she said, okay, I know a woman who looks like a publisher, and she might like your work. And she referred me to Samantha. I'd never met her, didn't know anything about her, but I liked that she was a woman, made me more comfortable. I reached out to her, and we met, and it was just radical different from the last time because we just clicked like that. And she understood the vision, and it has been infinitely easier. I won't even lie. It's been 10 times easier than when I first started. And it's maybe it's luck, I don't know. So this time around, it was not as difficult because I found a publisher who understood the kind of work I do, understood my vision, understood what I was trying to do. But I know not every writer gets that chance. I know a lot of young writers out there who are struggling and who cannot really find publishers. So I know the struggle. I was just lucky.
Struggle is real. We all know it's yeah, to answer. There's a comment here from the young man in front of me, and then we have one more question. So please, as quickly as possible.
How are you? Good. I just wanted to do a little comment on the cover because, before I read the blurb, I just wanted to understand what was going on there. And, I just thought that it was a man and a woman dancing. I thought it might be a love story or something because the stars, a disco or something. So I thought it was a dance. And then when I read the blurb, I realized it was a war. Yeah, so I found it very beautiful to say, if someone gets to see a book, they might think that it's a dance. And I think that's what makes, I'm sure if you know George R.R. Martin, I think that's what makes one of his stories powerful, which is called A Dance with the Dragons. Because it's essentially a fight or a battle between dragons, and he calls it a dance of the dragons, and you get into it and then you realize it is a fight. And that makes it beautiful. And I wanted to comment on a history lesson that we got today. It was a powerful history lesson. We learned a lot. And, it's one of those unforgettable moments where you're like, this is a marking life. It was very beautiful. And then another thing, the issue that you talked about, the fact of the grave, blasting the grave and all that. I didn't go to Matokos myself. My friends went there when I was a kid, when we were in grade 2. I had to just see video. And the one thing that baffled me was that they were showing grave racism journals. And I was like, no, and the grave is the first thing that these children see when they get to Matubas. And they get to learn about Cecil John Rhodes. They are not told about Neanda, they are not told about Shaminuka and all that, they are told about Cecil John Rhodes. So that is his legacy. What he wrote on his grave is his legacy. He's telling the people that he won it because this is your place. This is, Matoposi is a sacred place in our culture. It is where things, some say that's where a lot of things started. That's where a shrine Matunjani is, right? So, I feel like it is a battle that we're still fighting, and hopefully we will get to win because, we can't have that where we have a colonizer. The country was called Rhodesia after him, and he has a grave on one of the sacred places in our country. So it's just a comment, not a question. So, congratulations on your beautiful, beautiful piece of work. I'm looking forward to getting to it.
Thank you very much.
Right, so nditi makorokoto mubvunzo wangu wakareruka. Ndida kubvunzawo kuti bhuku renyu iri makatora mazuva mangani kana kuti nguva yakareba sei kuti murinyore? That's it.
Mamoyo 2023, I think should be in July, and I think by the end of 2023 I had the first draft, but it was very rough, very tough, so throughout 2024 when I got time I would sort of go back to the story, up until I felt like, okay, it's okay. And then that was April 2025, I think. Yeah. So I would say maybe a year and a half. Yeah, overall, I think it would be maybe a year and a half.
Nice. Okay, the brother-in-law, but the answer, so allow me just because it's the brother-in-law.
It's it will be a quick one, simple. Spiritual journey, the spiritual journey, and I wanted to find out how you can, what's your journey been like, discovery, and how the journey is going now. Thinking, and for fear of interruptions, I don't know if interrupting. Continuous spiritual journey, she passed through a nation, Bira, discover, and it was like hours, nights, ketamine, LSD, more roses. How did your discovery start, and how is the journey going? How are you moving through this?
Okay. Alright. It's actually one thing when I started having what I might call my spiritual awakening. I was actually agnostic. I don't know if I was not a believer in anything spiritual. And I was the sort of person that would see, if you ask me, I'd say to see, when I die, that there's no afterlife, there's nothing. Like I was, so against anything spiritual. So it's actually ironic. And then, okay, I will not get into all the nitty-gritties for fear of rules or, certain individuals or spirits, but I would say I started having dreams. So I would dream certain things and they were recurring dreams. I remember and initially I would ignore the